I was telling people earlier, and I made this remark on social media because I get people so aggravated at me if I criticize the one of their particular politician that they like. It doesn't matter who it is. I mean, at least I will have at least criticized someone that you like as a politician. There, it just goes without saying. I've been on air for too long and for too often to not have a record of this. And I have told people, don't be afraid to criticize politicians. I don't care what their little fan clubs think. I'm never not going to criticize a politician or with a due criticism or hold them accountable for something that they do. And the demand to do so is un-American. So people need to stop worshiping politicians if they want a better republic. And so I go back to this thing with, like, for instance, some of her tens of fans are mad at me because I've been criticizing her over this, and it's worthy of criticism because it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Let's go back to the Mitt Romney real quick. This was like in 2011, 2012. Do you remember the story he told on himself where he took their family dog and he put the dog in a carrier and tied it on top of the roof and drove for 12 hours to Canada? Well, the dog had diarrhea and lost it, and it ran all over the back windshield, the back glass of the car, and that's when they noticed something was wrong with the dog. So he takes the dog out, hoses it off, and then puts it back in the kennel and straps it back up on the top of the car, and they continue on their way. Now, I think that's a little heartless. I don't expect everyone to be as a huge fan of dogs as I am, but at the same time, I don't believe in sacred cows, right? But I do believe that people should ask. I think they should at least have some common sense. I think they need to have common sense with stuff. That seems a little heartless. That seems a little mean to treat your dog like that. But secondly, it also demonstrated a lack of political acumen because you don't want to tell stories on yourself to put yourself in a position where you have to be on defense for something dumb. And that's what I get into this. The reason that we all know this is because she shared it because she wanted it to be discussed. And also it was an excerpt that The Guardian published. Let me explain to you how some of these excerpts work, having published 4 books. You work with your publisher and you both sign off on what excerpts you want released and which excerpts you do not want released. And so you, as the author, you are participating in that. And so for the Guardian to get that excerpt and be able to publish it means that Noem and her people and the publisher all had to sign off on it because they all thought it was okay. So not only did she write about this in a book, but she also agreed to have it published as one of the excerpts in The Guardian, which is wild to me. And so the story, and I'm looking directly at the excerpts, it's this wire hair pointer called Cricket, and the dog was a puppy. And Noem writes that it was a female, had an aggressive personality, and she wanted to train it to use it to hunt pheasant. And so Noem says that she was trying to help calm the dog down and teach the dog how to behave. And she said that she took Cricket on this pheasant hunt with older dogs and that Cricket ruined the hunt and she went out of her mind with excitement, this is verbatim, chasing all those birds and having the time of her life. And she tried to use an electronic collar to attempt to bring her under control. She said that didn't work. She said that when on the way home after the hunt, Noem stopped to talk to a local family, and I guess Cricket wasn't restrained properly in the truck because Cricket got out of the truck, I don't know how that happens, and attacked the family's chickens. Noem writes, grabbing one at a time, crunching it to death with one bite, and dropping it to attack another. And so she said that Noem writes that Cricket nipped at her. And she said the chicken's owner wept, Noem apologized, and she wrote the family a check for the price of the chickens. And she said that she hated that dog and that she said she was less than worthless as a hunting dog. And she said, at that moment, I realized I had her put her down. So she dragged Cricket to a gravel pit and shot and killed her. Now, again, hi from the rural Ozarks over here. My family are all farmers and ranchers. My husband grew up on a farm, and I've had working breed dogs. He's had working breed dogs. And I would love, for instance, to get a Belgian Malinois, but I don't have the time to train it, and I would rather train the dog myself to develop that relationship than not. So I realize that I do not have the time to properly train an animal, so I'm not going to get that type of animal. Bottom line is we understand dogs, and you don't have to live in South Dakota to understand dogs either. There's a difference between a very dangerous animal that something's wrong with it. It's an actual danger to other people. And a puppy that has tons of energy is a working breed dog and has not been properly trained. There's a difference. But number two, that aside, why the hell would you write about this in a book and flex on it like it's an example of how decisive and tough you are? Because that's the whole purpose that she put this in the book. She was trying to show people that she's tough and that she's decisive, and look how decisive she is. She dragged her dog to a gravel pit and shot her before her kids got off the bus. She is tough. That doesn't look tough. It looks stupid, and it looks pick me. That has massive pick me girl energy. It's way try too hard. Are you serious? Come on. And it's kind of hard to take that if you've ever seen a picture of her holding a pistol, because she teacups the damn thing like she's going to afternoon high tea with the queen, or king, I guess now. It's just weird. I don't know why you would put that in a book thinking that that is going to be a flex for you. Now, her response to this, her people's response, were to ignore all of the people who are also ranchers and farmers who are like, look, we've had to deal with bad animals and not bad animals and untrainable animals, and that's never how we really treated anything. And they were trying to make it like it was just the media that was super upset. She said that it's the media, it's gasping. She was trying to say that it was a politically incorrect story that had the media gasping. This has nothing to do with political correctness. The shock is because a very try-hard, pick-me moderate governor is desperate to land the coveted slot of VP. She grossly miscalculated and took her political chances to the gravel pit. That's what people are reacting to. I mean, it just made her look ridiculous, and it invites people to question her political acumen and reasoning. That's not a move that a smart politician makes. That is not a good tactical move. And all of her critics are critics over this, not because they're all suburban or urbanite, which I think is a really stupid deflection. It's just, why would you Mitt Romney yourself? Why would you do this? Why would you do this? It's just as simple as that. People know the difference between a dangerous nuisance animal and an untrained working breed puppy. And yeah, farm life isn't all butterflies and sunshine. I mean, I've been there when during calving season. I've been there and I've seen like what my family goes through when calves are born, with goats, with pigs. Watch pigs go off to slaughter. I mean, duh. But this is such a dumb thing to flex on, and they want to characterize, like I said, this unforced error as some divide between flyover and city dwellers. But that dog don't hunt, so don't shoot it. It's a divide between the people who don't think it's smart to discredit yourself with a dumb story and the people who do. Because this is a tight race going into November, and you do not have the luxury, none of us do, to have as a VP, which she's never going to be VP. It's a red state with only 3 electoral votes, as I said. It's not going to happen. But you cannot have as a VP contender or to install as the VP a moderate. She had a very moderate record in the House, and she was soft on lockdown. I'm happy to share those receipts coming up. You can't bring something like that to the table, somebody who cannot avail themselves of silly, unforced errors. It's just bad. It's bad. And even before then, I just didn't think, I'm like, you can't have a reliably red state with only 3 electoral votes. That's not how it's going to work. But it is true. I mean, it is, you have the soft on lockdown stuff. And she's a moderate. Don't forget the trans sports bill in South Dakota. There were a lot of conservatives that were upset over that. I had her on air on it. I've been very nice. I've had her on air. We've talked about it. She also was, she supported the lockdown and the mandates. In fact, the only reason that South Dakota didn't lock down was because the state legislature fought her. She's not this like conservative fighter. She's trying to reinvent herself. Literally, she's trying to have like a physical glow up. Her hair is longer. She looks a little different. I mean, it's obvious. But it was her state legislature that actually fought her, that forced her hand. It was House Bill 1297. John Schweppe had a big thing about this, where he wrote that her reputation on lockdown was basically wholly manufactured. She only appeared to oppose the lockdown because she was being forced by the Republican-led legislature. And she absolutely did support lockdown measures. In fact, he writes, quote, on March 30th, 2020, at the request of Governor Noem, South Dakota Representative Lee Qualm introduced House Bill 1297 that would have declared a state of emergency in South Dakota and give the Secretary of Health unprecedented powers to impose mandates and lockdowns. It was a very straightforward one-page bill. And Noem pushed it. And the South Dakota House of Representatives emphatically rejected her bill 50-17. She pushed lockdown. The Republicans in the state legislature rejected it. I mean, this is not up for debate. You can rewrite your image and you can have your glow up and you can do all this stuff. But, the fact remains there is a record. She was a very moderate Republican in the House. But she's reinventing herself now. But she doesn't have the political acumen.